Okay, testing, testing. Does everyone hear me right now? Let's see, could be a good idea to also have this thing up. Yep, there we go. Here's the world. Oh, there are so many continents and it just never ends. This world is so huge. Oh yeah, Victor Temple, the undisputed Baron of the Valley. I am just gonna say that I'm on episode 6, season 4, and slightly taken out of, like, if there were any Society of Leopold hunters with a little bit of experience under their belt, checking out his club with his Ventru flag waving around, I don't think he'd be as confident as he is in that episode, just gonna say. Anyway, glad you all can hear me, and even gladder that y'all are joining me, because I'm about to do a little stream and basically go into detail about the construction of a setting. Now, there are some things I haven't figured out yet because I do want to keep some stuff secret, but I guess I'm gonna be like, oh, this is Bruja Territory, this is Arterial Territory, stuff like that. Maybe go in and create the Primogen, the prince, basically all the major players, talk a little bit about the city's history, and basically teach y'all a little bit about Stockholm, and also answer some questions from my Discord channel, which I have. I'm gonna pull that up for myself now. I have Q&As, questions being prioritized from elder tier on my Patreon, I want to say, and I'm gonna answer those first, and then if other questions pop up, I will be answering them, of course. I didn't have a Q&A in February, March, or April, so this is basically a little bit to make up for that. Also, you probably noticed I haven't made any more office hours episode. That's because they took a long time to make, and honestly, I feel like I can cover more of that stuff while I'm actually making a campaign myself, and it will be a little bit less preachy. So that's going to be pretty much what we're doing today. We're going to be streaming for 2.5 hours around that time, and yeah, he's got hubris. I love Victor as a character. He's been my favorite through the entire campaign out of the permanent players, and I really I love him so much. At times I've been upset with him, but in a good way, in character way. So, essentially, I have done no prep work for this. I've only made like a little Google folder, which has 3 files in it. We have Stockholm by Night, the map, which we're looking at right now. If you don't know what this is basically, I'm gonna bring up the name so I get it right. This is Google My Maps, which is a tool to make your own maps on Google. And there's also the map wizard, which I don't have right now, which is another tool for using. Oh, I'm using OBS for streaming right now. Why is okay. Oof. Oh wait, stream. I should get rid of this thing. Sorry. Boop. There we go. Everything's visible now. Sorry about that. So I'm streaming using OBS, and it is hopefully 1920 times 1080 resolution. I'm not sure about that. Let me check. Output, stream output video. Yeah, should be full 1080p resolution. If it's not, then let me know, and I'll try to work with that. And especially since I'm doing some writing and stuff, it's gonna be hard to read what I'm writing if it's not 1080p, so I really want to. That's also why I went with YouTube, by the way, because YouTube allows that right away. I'd have to have a couple of things. I'd basically have to get what's the Twitch word for it, affiliated, to be able to do 1080p streaming, so hence I'm sticking to YouTube for now. Also, I don't personally like Amazon, but I mean, there's no ethical consumption in a capitalist society, so whatever. Stockholm, that's what we're going to be doing. So like I said, I've got this map down. There's another map making tool with Google Maps called Map Wizard, which allows you to make maps with just roads and stuff like that. So I might at some point be using those as well. But this gives me a couple of different views of Stockholm. Like, I think this one is super useful because that's only 720p. That's weird. Let's see if I can. Could be in the settings. Stream output. Rescale output. No? Should be 1920 times 80p. Output resolution. I'm not rescaling. Oh, I am rescaling it. All right, my bad. I will be right back. And hopefully I am back. Let me know if I am back. This should be 1080p. And yeah, Twitch is weird. I've used it before, but now I don't because it is a little bit too much. Twitch has some interesting features if you're a permanent streamer. It's fine, no worries. But otherwise, I like YouTube. YouTube is smooth. All right, so we are back again, I hope, and this should be 1080p. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna start with a to-do list. Should be here. We also have a what we know thing here, which is thank you Snow for Helios for letting me know, which is basically gonna be me compiling information from the V5 books. This will be a V5 setting, while my lore videos are primarily focused on revised or 3rd edition as well as V20. As you've probably noticed, I've been getting way more into V5 lately. I've been doing references to LA by Night. I've been referencing V5 events. I primarily do that, like outright do that in my Who's Who videos because I feel like those need to be more up to date. But I've also been including some references to events that may or may not have happened in the V5 continuity. Like for example, when I was doing the Bruja second video, I ended it with Theobald's shotgun, which is what he used to kill Hardestat to essentially get their clan out of the Camarilla. An interesting thing I noticed, by the way, this has nothing to do with this particular setting, but an interesting thing I noticed watching episode 6 of season 4 of LA by Night is that Jason Carl says that the Gangrel have tried to get back into the Camarilla as a clan, but they were not allowed to, which I don't recall reading about, so that's an interesting piece of information for you. So I'm interested in seeing where that's going. I'm going to close Twitter now. So, okay. Let's start with the to-do list. We're going to leave this awesome map for now. And we're going to start with a very brief little list of things we need to do. So obviously, I'm not going to number them. Let's see. Nope, get off with the... So, Sect. Good. Sect affiliation. If the typing of my keys are too loud or is too loud, typing is... Yeah, if the typing is too loud, let me know, and I will try to move the microphone, but it's a little bit of a hassle moving it back and forth. So, also I'm not doing a face cam because that is... It's going to be a lot of me just sitting there looking at the screen, so it's not super interesting to watch. Unless everyone wants me to do a face cam, then I'll try to get that in here. Okay, Sect affiliation. It's going to be Camarilla, just saying, with some Anarchs. Well, we'll get to that later. Yeah, I agree, Onion Kid. I think it might have been a point of... No, actually, I want to blame Pride from the Camarilla, saying they don't want to have them back. But also the Gangrel didn't really leave with a big finale like the Bruja did. They just kind of left. So that's weird that they were not allowed to join. I should ask him about that on Twitter, see if he can maybe dispel some ideas I have. Sect affiliation, essentially clan territories. We should be doing that. City history. We need to know a little bit more about Stockholm as his city. Kind and kindred. Use the term kind here. Uppsala should be Sabbat. Yeah, I agree with you. Let me see here. City history, kind and kindred. That's gonna be me reading a lot of Wikipedia articles and seeing what I can kind of twist and turn into vampire stuff. We're gonna have some city geography. That should probably be done before territories, but whatever. Kind and kindred as well. We should talk about what do you call them really? Neighborhoods is a little bit like let me look up what the term for that is. I am a professional English teacher, in fact, so Urban subdivision. That's such a weird word for it. Quarter. That's also not really. Let's call them. No, that they'll go under city geography anyway. What else should we include in this list? We should have important NPCs or SPCs, such as. Actually, let's do this. Such as Prince, Primogen, Sheriff, Hounds, Scourge, Keeper of Elysium, districts. Yeah, you're right. Let's call them districts. You're right. Absolutely right. Districts. It's kind of going to go into the domains as well. Districts and domains, we'll call it that. Thank you, districts. Yeah. The thing is, Stockholm is kind of geographically divided by islands. So you have Södermalm here, and you have Gamla Stan, Old Town. Södermalm used to actually not be an island. It's an island now. It wasn't in the past. They dug out this part of it. You have Kungsholmen. Norrmalm. These are not actually islands, but they're districts, I guess. You have Djurgården. Deep down inside, I hate. What? Oh, I have a visitor. I have a cat who wants to get up on my desk, so he's sitting here very patiently waiting. Am I allowed to say deep down inside, I hate? Am I allowed to? I don't understand, Justin. Sorry. Okay, Keeper of Elysium. Can you make the setting a bit eldritch or cosmic horror? Well, Eduardo, this setting is going to be World of Darkness. Well, not old World of Darkness. It's not called that anymore, but it's called V5. I would say that I'm a huge fan of cosmic horror and eldritch, but I don't think it belongs in Vampire the Masquerade. At least not at this point. I think the setting is right now very much focused on personal horror and political horror and like political elements. But if I were to run a game in this setting, I would channel moderation rules. Channel moderate. I don't understand. Oh yeah, Seneschal. Oh, in another campaign. Yeah, if I'm making one, but this will primarily be focused on this one because it needs a lot of work to be done. But if I do make another setting, for sure, I love eldritch stuff. You're absolutely right. The Seneschal has to be in here as well. Channel moderation. I really don't, Justin. I really don't understand. Is there something are you being blocked for saying something, or what's going on? Ward 7 West. Mage has some of the more eldritch horror stuff. Tzimitzi, we'll see if they'll show up here. Like, there's some really... It's not super clear who rules where in Sweden. Because at times there's been Sabbat, at times there's been Camarilla. You also have the Valkyrie, who follow Odin the Allfather, who is definitely aligned to neither of those. Kind of semi-anarch, but doing his own thing. Methuselah worship and all that stuff. So Stockholm is going to be Camarilla for this campaign, at least initially, with a fairly strong anarch presence, and I'm going to get into that later. We're going to leave that one open for now. Any other SPCs? Of course, we're going to have SI officers. That's going to be showing up as well. He can't take care of himself. Get electrical. I don't understand. What is the difference between a seneschal and a sheriff? And I probably got the spelling wrong. Yeah, you didn't get it wrong. Seneschal is like the right-hand man of the prince. They are the prince's assistants. They do a lot of the day-to-day business that the prince doesn't want to or doesn't have time to do. And the sheriff is the person who kind of is the assistant as well, but the sheriff is in charge of of ensuring that the traditions are kept, that the law is kept. So they are more of a kind of person who hits the pavement, who knows a lot of kindred in town and knows what's going on. The sheriff has some vice sheriffs or hounds who they pick to be their assistants, basically. And a scourge is what are you looking? Justin, I don't really understand what you are talking about right now. Is it something between you and Eric, or? And the Scourge is the essentially used to be the hunter of thin bloods and caitiffs, although I'm not entirely sure if that is all in their job description anymore. The Scourge is kind of in between chairs. SI, we're gonna have that. Hello, Vios. Welcome to the stream. So we got a little list of things we're gonna do right now. We'll start with this. So obvious answer is Sect affiliation is Camarilla and Anarchs a little bit. If you hear any kind of licking noise, that's my cat cleaning himself. He's sitting right next to the microphone. So let's start with dividing up clan territory. This is going to be a rudimentary division, and it will definitely be changed while we're doing this game. I feel like if you want to start with a city, you want to kind of divide up. You want to start from top and move down to bottom. So we're going to be like, all right, what exactly is the division in this city? What territories belong to whom? You might have to do a little bit of research for that if you're not familiar with the city. I am fairly familiar with Stockholm. I've lived in Stockholm for 12 years. I actually lived, let me see here. I lived, where is, I lived, wait, what the hell? Oh, what? Did they change? Oh, yeah. No, I lived around here in Stockholm once upon a time. Now I don't. Now I live way out here. But it's pretty easy to get in. So as you can see, Stockholm is a fairly big the metropolitan area is here, but the very densely populated suburbs all around. My cat is watching my mouse going around. So as you can see, it's a pretty heavily populated area. Oh, okay. Yeah. So here are the Mälaröarna. This is where I'm from originally. I was born out here. And you have one of the royal castles here, which we're gonna get into this territory later, because as you can see, lots of green out here. I have plans for these islands. But this is also, by the way, in the middle of a lake. Sweden's third biggest lake, called Mälaren. We have some pretty big lakes, but as you can also see, it's fairly close to the ocean. You can easily access the ocean from Stockholm. So Stockholm started out as a trade port. Essentially, there were some fortresses here to ensure that there were no invasions, because a lot of the old Viking settlements are in and around Mälaren. You will find a lot of old settlement ruins here, for example, and here. And basically, this was a natural kind of a barrier to blocking out invasions via sea. So that's where Stockholm originated, and eventually became this trade hub centered around Gamla Stan. So the royal castle is here, and this is the oldest part of Stockholm, which is kind of shaped like a heart, which I think is neat. Then you have these islands are basically where the navy used to be. You have Djurgården, which is over here, which is this huge kind of park-like island where the king would take his friends to botanical gardens, things like that. We have one of the world's biggest outdoor museums here, Djurgården Skansen. So it's located here. You got the ABBA Museum here too, by the way. You got a huge field up here, Gärdet, and you got a lot of forest. Very close to the city, you have a shit ton of forest, which is, I think, fairly unique, especially considering that land is very premium. If you look at the division of Stockholm, Stockholm region, which is way bigger than just the city. It's like this big. Stockholm region grows by 40,000 people roughly every year. So a lot of houses need to be built. So there's a little piece of history for you, and some information about Stockholm. This particular island, or these sets of islands, which was not an island to begin with, but it is now, this used to be where the poor people lived in Stockholm, all the way up to the mid 1900s. These were the poorer region of Stockholm. And especially this section of Stockholm, I would say, were the worker neighborhoods and around here. There was barely anything built here. This part is much newer. And all the way over here, you actually had the gallows. So it was quite a bit to travel from town all through this up to the gallows over here. I think they were over here, or maybe they were here. But this is a long time ago. So, an interesting thing about Södermalm is that it is now a very hip and very hipster kind of area to live in. And this has translated to pretty much all of Södermalm. This part is called Sofo, south of Folkungagatan, which you will see here. And this is the hip place to be. This is a business area, very, very high profile business area. You got Paradox Entertainment lies here, I think. You have DICE, which is around here. You have the school my beautiful spouse Kitsu is working at over here, roughly. And basically, this is a big hub of commerce. Although, this is by far the biggest hub of commerce over here. We'll get to that later. So now we're going to do a little division. And our first layer is going to be territories. We're going to see how Stockholm has been divided between the clans. And I'm going to start with the Bruja. So that's what we're going to do. Let's see here. Add marker, draw a line. And we're going to... No. Stop. We're going to get rid of that. Okay, I thought I could drag the map around, but I apparently cannot. What if I... Nope. If I right-click, it's the same thing. Okay. Cancel. Delete. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And, okay. We're going to start with Bruja. The Bruja Territory will be... Now, interesting part. This, like I said, this area was not developed until very recently. And this is still a huge park. There's a lot of parkland here. So, Hornstull, this area, roughly this area is called Knivsöden, which is like knife south or something. Which is where basically you were at a high risk of getting stabbed if you were there at the wrong place at the wrong time. So that seems like a suitable place to have the Bruja, as they're also typically identifying with the worker class or with the proletariat. At least that's historically what they've been doing here in Stockholm in my campaign. So we're going to make these islands be part of that, and essentially we're going to make this Bruja Territory. This is a Google Maps feature. I'm using my Maps, I think it's called, which is either a third party or just one of those cool features that Google has. But it is very useful. This is an old factory. Liljeholmskajen here is an old factory district, so we're definitely going to include that. And we're going to stretch this area a little bit. And we're gonna do basically this. This is gonna be Bruja Territory. Bruja. This is not something you would find if you just go to Google Maps, I think. I basically searched for Google My Maps. And the reason I did that is because of this amazing little feature. This is a map of Chicago. I know that Jersh from Gaming FTL or from Strange Adventures, yes, Strange Adventures, he created a map, basically putting out every single Kindred's haven, and then people kept working on that and improving it and adding all the different territories to the city. So they did that with Google My Maps, so that's why I'm using it, the same one. So as you can see, there's little information about all these territories, and you can literally see the havens of where people live. So that's a neat feature, which is what we're going to be using. Let me get back everything here. Just go down. We're going to go back to here. No, wrong button. Bruja Territory. has shrunk since Toreador incursion. Already we have a little bit of a conflict here between the Toreador and the Bruja. The reason for that will be obvious at a later point. Now, the Bruja color I feel should definitely be red. Yeah, Vios, I can strongly recommend this tool. It is very useful. There's also another tool, Wizard Maps, Styling Wizard Google Maps API. That's a mouthful. But essentially, this tool, mapstyle.withgoogle.com, is something I will be using as well. It is super duper useful if you want to make a map with just the roads, for example. So if you go to Stockholm and you go, I don't want to have landmarks, I don't want to have labels, you get rid of that, and then you go to more options. Let's go to roads, highways, stroke. I'm gonna make those black, and there you go. So you got all the highways as black, and I think it's supposed to, if you go with fill, there you go. Highways are black. We want to have arterial roads. This is just a side thing I'm doing, by the way, but it might as well do this because it's useful. Arterial roads will be a lighter gray, and we'll obviously use the same fill. So there you go. And then local roads, tiny roads, they will have a even lighter gray, and we will of course fill them as well. So you get these little side streets. Super duper useful tool. If you don't want to have a whole bunch of names and stuff flying around, like I know Stockholm fairly well, so I don't really need to have the names hovering everywhere. Although I don't think you can combine this tool with my Google My Maps, so I'm just going to make two separate maps. But as you can see, there are a few really important highways that connect Stockholm. They're currently working on making a huge highway that just goes around everything. That's been done for a while. Yes, let me link that map style. Dude, this is what I'm using. This is what you see right now. And Google My Maps, I will just Google My Maps. There we go. Oh, it's just My Maps on Google, basically. So, doot, and you can create a new map. So, there you go. Ooh, I don't know Snazzy Maps, so that's strange. But yeah, these tools, free, of course. You can possibly change them later. I'm not sure. It also shows you how big the territory is, which is super useful. This is 2.95 square kilometers. So actually not a lot if you think about it. I don't know how to translate that to miles, but I don't think it's really that much. And honestly, it's not a huge territory, but it's very densely populated. There's a lot of people living here. Many tall buildings, very cramped. So still a lot of people, a lot of clubs. Although you've actually seen in Stockholm quite a few nightclubs closing down lately, which I don't think the Bruja are very happy about, because I think that's definitely their kind of territory. So now we got Bruja Territory. We're actually also going to add a picture for that. So we're going to go to Sunday here, and we're going to add their clan symbol. Now the Bruja have officially left the Camarilla with quite a bang. So they are only allowed this territory as a nice gesture by the Camarilla. Technically, the Camarilla could just throw them all out. They're not going to do that though, because the Bruja have a pretty strong presence in the city. So let's go with the Toreador. This is interesting though, by the way. This park here, this is a really nice division. This park used to be shaped almost like a football field, but they have flattened it out. I don't know when they're gonna fix this. They were supposed to fix this a long time ago. They added some tunnels to the train station that is here. You wouldn't be able to see it. You wouldn't be able to tell it was a train station because it's underground, but there is one. What the hell is this? What the hell? Oh yeah, this is a park. They were doing construction here as well, reinforcing it. Sorry. Also, if you're ever in Stockholm, let me tell you about Where is it? Yeah, it's here. This place. Where is it? Where is it? It's here. It's supposed to be here. Oh, wait. I might have gone too far. Sorry. Student bars got done. Okay, so there is a Thai restaurant. Oh, yeah, there. It's in the wrong place. There's a Thai restaurant here under the trees. Amazing Thai food. Went there all the time. Just some information. I don't know if you're gonna have any use of that, but there you go. So we're gonna add another one of these. So this is gonna be. Oh, oops, messed that one up. That's right. I have to. I can use the. Oh, I can use the arrow keys to move around. Perfect. This is gonna be the Toreador. They are going to be. Actually, they are going to be. Where is Gatan? They are going to be this territory. And just gonna have this. They're gonna have more, mind you, but they have taken this territory from the Bruja, because Bruja used to own all of this land before, but now it is Toreador country. Claimed by the Toreador in the late mid 00s after Bruja departure. So now that we know that they stole that at that point, at that time, we're gonna give it another color. I think the color purple. No, that's more Toreador. I mean, that's more Tremere. This is a little bit too similar. Kind of painted myself in a corner here. What color should we get for the Toreador? Yellow? I guess that works. Yeah, let's go with yellow, because we don't really have anything else. So, yellow, and we'll add the Toreador icon. Yes, I know that you're here, Victor. Don't worry, I see you. Cat is kicking the microphone currently. There we go. So they took 1.5 square kilometers, which is actually quite a bit of territory. Now then, this is interesting. There's quite a few tunnels here. This is one of our biggest and oldest hospitals, Södersjukhuset, and they have an extensive underground hospital just in case there was a war, with quite a few tunnels. That was Cat tipping a pen. So I am going to make this territory belong to the Nosferatu. They're actually going to have this, and they're going to have some of this, because it's an old factory neighborhood. It was used to be really run down. That was pretty high class. Venture's kind of looking to grab this, but so far they haven't been able to. This is going to be Nosferatu territory, all of this. Except maybe, no, not this forest. That's going to be part of the gangrel. Or maybe even free for all, as it were. So this is a really nice park with a little beach here. But here, you got the old hospital, you got some tunnels, you got basically a fairly nice bathhouse, some old and new buildings. More importantly, this is an old. God, the microphone is really flipping out. Sorry about that. Here we go. You got some really nice. Oh yeah, it's gold. It's not yellow. It's gold. You got some really nice houses now, but this used to be the essentially slaughterhouse district, I think, as well as like sand was being stored here for sanding the entire city. So it's like really run down place. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make that into Nosferatu territory. So add lines to draw a shape. We're gonna draw a line from here. Right, arrows. Gonna draw that here, and then we're gonna go here. This is a really nice waterfront run, by the way. Like there's a nice path here that you can take that just goes along the water's edge. Oh, bless you, Victor. Did you guys hear that? He sneezed. I don't know why he sneezed though. So this is industry territory right away. Very old. We're gonna go all the way here, whoop, and up here. We're gonna have this, and here, and then obviously we're gonna follow this. There we go. This is Nosferatu territory. Not to say that that's the only Nosferatu territory, because heaven knows there are so many tunnels. Only official territory. I can't see what I'm writing. Territory for Clan Nosferatu. Heavily, land value has shot through the roof. This was complete garbage up until like 20 years ago when they started urban renewal in this territory. This is super upper middle class, this territory right here. Also, I hope you guys think this is interesting. Me kind of ranting on about this while we're doing it. I will go, if you want me, actually I should probably pick a question to answer in a second, but if there's anything you want to know more about, just let me know. And geez, there's 24 of you watching. Is this, no, it's not very clear. I'll change the color for this. Orange? No, that's too close. Let's go with gray. Let's go with dark gray. Dude, even darker. Boop, like that. And we'll also add the picture Nosferatu. I'm going to bring up the Q&As. So, actually 2 months ago, I got a question from one of my patrons Edward Reed. He was saying, how do most of the Camarilla make a living? How do elders make money? How do Ancilla and neonates make money? And that's something he's been meaning to ask for a while, and the answer is not very clear. It really depends on what you were doing when you were alive. I would say that any and all kinds of jobs that can't be done during the night, they've obviously stopped doing them. And some jobs, like author, things like that, could still be done for quite a while, at least until it's suspiciously weird that you are still alive despite having passed some time. I would say vampires don't so much make money as they save money. Because really, depending on your clan, of course, you can get away with not having to pay for much of anything. Like, you don't have to buy food anymore. You really don't need to buy toilet paper or toiletries. You don't need to wash, although, of course, you should. Most of your money is probably going to be spent on hanging with mortals, essentially. So I think that's... actually, you know what? Let's make this Bruja Territory as well. It's going to be fine. Yeah, retail can still be done, but I really doubt that any vampire who's lived for a while is gonna be okay with being pushed around in retail for much longer. So while I can certainly imagine a fledgling or a neonate sticking to retail, especially if they haven't been taught by their sire that they don't have to, then they might stick around to doing that for a while, but after that they will probably do something else. Bruja, that's going to be Bruja territory as well, so you got the Toreador coming in here and taking the nicest pieces for themselves. So Bruja was this color. Rent still needs to be paid, of course, hence why you need a steady source of income. Some vampires have a very easy time with this. If you have dominate, or even if you have presence, you can convince others to pay the rent for you. You can make your landlord suspiciously forget that you haven't paid, which of course is even harder these days because there's digital archives for these kind of things. But that's a couple of options that you can use. So you see, Bruja have a lot of territory actually, but it's being eaten away by the Toreador. You can also, of course, easily manipulate a rich mortal or a well-off mortal to devote quite a large amount of money for them. You can manipulate people, stock investment companies, things like that, to invest your money. Also, of course, if you put money in a bank, you will get interest. So older vampires will certainly have quite a bit of money squirreled away. And I believe the old adage goes that any vampire who's old enough don't really care about money anymore, because that's no longer an option. The only currency a vampire really values is boons, or are boons, I suppose you'd say, because boons still have a value because another vampire literally owes you a favor. So that is certainly how most older vampires would evaluate the riches. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling right now, but I think it's hard until you suddenly decide that you're morally okay with exploiting mortals to some degree or another. Because that once you reach that point, you will no longer have to worry. Actually, you know what? Tell you what, we're gonna go back here. This territory we're gonna remove because there's a bunch of really, really expensive houses here. This is not gonna be Gangrel territory. But yeah, even slight exploitation of the rich will easily land you quite a bit of money. And you can also you can invest. Again, I think it's a matter of age, because if you are old enough, you will undoubtedly own land. You will have invested in things that will have seen some manner of profit. Like, inevitably, most things are going to generate profit over time. It's just a matter of how quickly they do. Like, land certainly doesn't get cheaper, for example. But I do think that younger vampires will most likely have a pretty poor existence. Although, on the other hand, they also really don't need a lot to make do. They don't eat. They can literally sleep in a garbage can if they want to, because they're dead when they're sleeping. So comfort is nowhere near as important as it would be when you were mortal, for example. You rarely travel as a vampire. It is extremely dangerous, so travel expenses will be lowered. You might own a car, but you're probably not going to go long distance with it, because if you leave a city, you're probably going to get killed by a werewolf. So a lot of your life expenses, they just kind of shrivel up, and that's a huge in terms of saving. And I think it's just a matter of time, really, for it. That is very good question, Bios. The La Sombra. So the La Sombra definitely going to be in this city. Thank you for bringing that up, because I'm just now thinking, which clan should I be doing next? La Sombra, I feel, should certainly not have been a presence in a Camarilla city up until very recently. So they would logically be given territory either hotly contested or not in the nicest area. Now, where would I put that? I mean, there's not a lot of stuff here. It's just basically a highway. And there's people living here, I guess. Let me think. I thought I knew Stockholm, but now that I think about it, I actually don't know that much. I'm going to put out Ventru for now. I think Ventru is more important for me at the moment to kind of place that. And I think... No, you know what? Västerort, yeah, there's really, like, nothing here. Where would Tremere be? Because it's interesting, I happen to know, like, you have, of course, the libraries over here. You have the Bless you, kitty. You have the universities over here. This is Yugon? What the fuck? Alright, didn't know that. You have the universities over here. Haga Park is over here. I was thinking that Gangrel could be here. I was thinking that Gangrel might not even have official territory. Already having some trouble. La Sombra. Where would the La Sombra be? Like, okay, let's have a little conversation about La Sombra before we continue. They have recently joined the Camarilla. There's not going to be a lot of them. I'm going to say there's going to be less than 10 La Sombra in Stockholm. Possibly even less than 5. Chicago is a huge city. Way more people than Stockholm. So, oh yeah, that's true. Torridor Territory is definitely going to be Östermalm. Norrmalm might be Ventro Territory now I think about it. Östermalm is going to be where it's at, where all the rich kids are. What if the La Sombra... Oh, maybe Västerort, actually, now that I think about it. Not all the way with Brommaplan, that would be weird. That's really far away. So, just for a quick kind of reference to how quick it takes you to get around here. So this is central Stockholm. Central station is over here. To get here is going to take you by walking half an hour, 40 minutes, I think. Half an hour, 40 minutes seems like a reasonable distance. Crossing this island, it's going to take you 3 hours, I would say. 2.5, 3 hours walking. This distance, Bromma to Stockholm by metro, 15-20 minutes. It's a very small city. Plant distribution should be so much more different. I agree that it should be different, but I'm not sure. Like La Sombra are relatively young. I do want to have a small but powerful faction of Tremere in this city, because I'm imagining that Uppsala is more of a Tremere city, since it has the oldest university in Scandinavia still in charge. I kind of want to have the Tremere to be in a very small territory that only they are in charge of. So I'm going to put the Tremere here. That's where I'm going to put the Tremere. They're actually going to have this as well. Oh, the Modern Museum is here. Yes, let's get the Tremere there. So we're gonna do, because there's a bunch of you have, no, I'm not gonna have Tzimitzi here, and Banu Hakim, there's gonna be another area, Banu Hakim. Tzimitzi are not gonna be in here. I'm not gonna put Tzimitzi in this town because this is not a Sabbat city. It is a Camarilla city. The Tzimitzi are not present in the Camarilla. Yeah, there's gonna be Gangrel, but the Gangrel have never been into keeping territory in a city. Like, for example, half an hour by car, and you got endless amount of wilderness. Like, let's scroll up for a minute here. Forests everywhere. So for the Gangrel, it's not really an issue unless they want to be in very central Stockholm. But even then, if you go like forest here, it's 10-15 minutes by metro from central Stockholm. So there's a lot of I don't think there would be autarchis here. There is very little. There's very little Tzimitzi presence in Scandinavia, and they are Sabbat, except for the witch in Finland and she's in Finland. I also don't want to involve Tzimitzi because I don't want to house rule anything yet, and I don't know anything about Tzimitzi in V5. This is a V5 setting. So, okay. Actually, let's abandon this for now and go with who is a prince. Let's go. Important prince. I'm gonna make the Prince of Stockholm. Actually, this seems like a perfect opportunity for us to start working on what do we know. So let's go to the Camarilla book and search for Stockholm. It's gonna take a little while. And we got Stockholm here. The Stockholm Syndrome alone. Nope, that's not that. Example of kindred sheriffs. Josephine Adelbrand, former Gothenburg cop who found out a little too much about the Canaanites or worked in the city streets and fled. Canaanites, assuming then that Gothenburg might be Sabbat. An anarch pack she had been investigating pursued her to Stockholm only to fall afoul of Camarilla watchdog coterie that was keeping tabs on them. No, I don't think it. Maybe it was Luhi, but she was the one who taught the Tzimitzi Sabbat quite a bit of rituals, right when the Sabbat was being formed. She was protected for. Let's zoom in on this. She was protected for a time and then embraced in 1985 by the leader of that coterie, who later became sheriff or Brandvakt of that city. Josephine was his loyal child until he perished in a fire started by the anarchs who disliked his methods, and she had only barely escaped with her own life. She has since taken over his position as sheriff, shrewd and fierce combatant. She's highly intolerant of liars, criminals, and fast-talking anarchs. It should be noted that Stockholm has had a workers' movement for a very, very long time, hence why I want to make this more of an anarch Camarilla city rather than Sabbat, Sabbat being in other parts of Sweden. Let's keep going with Stockholm. Calling Stockholm a Hellen city is not entirely wrong. The Camarilla here have an almost anarch fascination with the political system of the kind. The dominant Bruja and Ventru have their fangs. Dominant Bruja and Ventru, so there already we have canon. Hello, Adam. Welcome. So I also want to kind of adhere to canon as established in V5. There's very little written about Stockholm, but Stockholm has been giving some attention in the V5 books. They don't want to make something that doesn't kind of click with the V5 canon. So the dominant Bruja and Ventru. So already we know that Bruja and Ventru were dominant in Stockholm, and Bruja are being pushed out because they have left the Camarilla. Although they are still strong enough that they haven't actively been forced out of the city, but other clans have been making essentially take land grabs out of their domain. The dominant Bruja and Ventru have their fangs sunk deep into the dynamic democratic socialist ideal of Folkhemmet, the people's home, hiding their feeding accidents as statistics in a vast system of elderly homes, daycare centers, and hospitals. The typical Swede trusts the state to take care of them, and it really does. It makes sure even their blood is taken care of. The dozen or so unbound and anarch leeches of the greater Stockholm region call the slightly fewer but older Camarilla kindred Gråstaten. So we know that there's not that many vampires in Stockholm. I'm probably going to make more than just a dozen. But it's a small movement, and it kind of does work with the statistics of one kindred of every 100,000 people, because Stockholm Municipal has about 1 to 1.5 million people living in it, or if that's the region, I don't recall. So maybe having around 20 to 30 vampires living in Stockholm seems reasonable. The Grey State is just as isolationist and here we go. And both fear and ridicule them. The Grey State is just as isolationist and elite as any Western prince and their court, but makes a great show of pretending to be the most refined undead democracy in the world, and it kind of is. Unknown to all living Swedes, they elect their own undead masters when they go to the ballots every 4 years. This means every Grey State, Ancilla, and Elder is attached to one of the major political parties of Sweden. Oof. And they are allowed to use any means they see fit to help their party into a position of government. The kindred attached to the winning parties score seats on the kindred Urtima Riksdagen. Urtima. The Urtima Riksdagen. That's a weird word. The untimely council that still gathers every month in an underground chamber under the parliament. The young-looking but ancient Helen Gustav Sörensson and his he's a Helen. All right. Gustav Sörensson and his Social Democratic Council alternates with the noble-born Renaissance Ventru Christina and her capitalist nationalist alliance, traditionally fronted by the Conservative Party moderates. Moderaterna. Okay, so this, however, is something I might shy away a little from, because I am not fond of including real-world politics in a game. I'm at a little bit of a crossroad here, and I think this is a decision that was made that this is the Anarch, the Camarilla V5 book, by the way. This is the Camarilla V5 book, and it has a part specifically about Stockholm. I'm not going to go too much into details about why I think they decided to do this, other than that some of the lead developers of this game were Swedish. I don't think it's a good idea to involve real-world politics in a role-playing game, and this, I think, is an excellent example of that. So if I am revising anything, it will be this, the way that the city is being run. I think it's fine to have a semi-democratic council. I don't think that it should be decided by votes of mortals. I really don't think that's a good idea in a game. And I kind of question the decision to put this into this. It really also does kind of sound like something that you might have picked out of a LARP campaign and put into here, because it certainly sounds like that. That's all I'm going to say about that. The most recent election has been nightmarishly even and has the potential to change everything. Gustav has disappeared to the east. His will is now represented by a coterie of young caretakers who seem to hate Thinbloods especially. And Christina is supporting the populist, nationalist Sweden Democrats. Oh boy, yeah, let's not do this. Let's not have a Nazi party being part of our story. So, not having any of that. Thank you very much. Yes, they are nationalist populists. No thank you. Violently opposing the Ashira and the Banu Hakim's recent rising influence amongst the unbound in the region. Ooh. The Anarchs of Stockholm are used to thriving as outsiders and have never been a part of the Camarilla. These coteries and autarkies come and go, their unlife expectancies counted in decades rather than centuries. The others, as they sometimes call themselves, attached to the illegal party scene and the pseudo-criminal groups, weird congregations, mosques, and collectives in the suburbs, or find other specialized niches where the Grey State can't find or threaten them. Oh boy, yeah, I'm going to rewrite. This is not going to be a thing in my game. And I was secretly, I'm going to say that I was hoping to make this as something that I could possibly publish when the embargo on V5 books are out. I'm not sure how Paradox or White Wolf think of retconning what is written in their books, but I certainly think that this was an incredibly poor decision on their part in having that in the books, and probably the only reason it's not been made a bigger fuss of is because not a lot of people know about Swedish politics internationally. That is playing with fire right there. It's a hugely divisive political point in Sweden right now. Could certainly be a problem in your group if you're playing. So, yeah, I'm not gonna have that in my game. So, what I'm gonna say though is I am going to keep the fact that this will be a democratically run city. Sorry. Oh, you're answering Marcus. Sorry, you're answering her. Okay. Yes. So, what will happen? Wait, can I actually make it a democratically run city? That's interesting. I believe that the Primogen Council will be democratically running the city in the sense that they will convene once a month to discuss matters, and they will have also elected one of them to serve as the spokesperson of the council, who will also be the representative internationally of the city with other princes. So technically not prince, but elected prince. What are we seeing here? Yeah. That is certainly my point of view. I don't know if you are referring to me, but I do not want to have those. I don't want to have politics, real world politics, period, in my game, and I certainly don't want to involve such a divisive and honestly creepy group as the Sweden Democrats. I don't like them, and I really hope that people watching this can appreciate the fact that I don't want literal Nazis running my country. Thank you very much. So, Prince Electors, that is a good term for that, and I do believe that is a nice compromise. I think the only problem here, I think one of the, how would they work though? Like, is it, yeah, I guess it would be like a traditional Primogen council that every council member has a vote. So it wouldn't be dependent on the clan size, although, interestingly, how would a new clan be able to join this council? Let's take the La Sombra and the Banu Hakim, for example. Like, is the Banu Hakim part of the council? Should they be? It's a Camarilla city. The Banu Hakim are officially part of the Camarilla. Are the La Sombra in on this council? Should they be? They only recently joined the Camarilla. That is an interesting question, and certainly something that can cause quite a bit of problem. So I'm going to write this in here. City being run by Primogen Council with a prince, and I'm going to steal this term for you here, a prince elector. Thank you very much for that, Steelhaven, or oh, my brain is dead right now. I've been GMing before this. I am terribly sorry that. Let me just get this out of the way. This is Max. This is Maximilian. Sorry about that. City's being run by the Primogen Council with a prince elector chosen from the council. Traditionally, Bruja or Ventru, but Ventru for the last 20 or so years, reflecting the fact that the Bruja have been essentially leaving the Camarilla, thus falling in power and grace with the rest of the clans in the city. Yeah, Max Hardcastle, sorry about that. I had it on the tip of my tongue, but I was so preoccupied, like, thinking about a million different things, I forgot about that. Sorry, Max. But yes, Bruja and Ventru have been taking turns. Initially, I believe, a Bruja initiative, as they were the dominant clan of the city. But in the 1980s, the Ventru achieved this position for the first time. And that could kind of reflect how the how Sweden, like, again, this is kind of bordering human politics a little bit, but there has been a turn towards a more liberal system in Sweden, away from a more socialist system. And to reflect that, I suppose the Ventru might have been growing in power and influence, which also makes sense because of the development of Sweden has progressed more towards office jobs and production, IT, innovation, things like that, rather than factory workers, production, things like that. So the Bruja have kind of lost the influence of the city because the working class has shrunk in a sense, and the upper middle class has grown. So in that sense, we can still capture this kind of political turmoil, if you want to call it that. I wouldn't actually call it a turmoil, while still retaining the sense that both Bruja and Ventru have been competing over power of the city, and the other clans have been aligning themselves with either parts. And there has been a lot of politics going on in the council. Up until the 1980s, the Bruja were usually the ones in charge, but lately it has been more of a gambit, and in the last 20 years, the Ventru have been solidly in charge. And some actually believe that the sorry, I'm talking about the political system of the city. I am rambling a little bit, but essentially, this city will be run by a Primogen council and have a spokesperson or a representative, a prince-elect, who is technically prince, but has very few of the advantages of being a prince. Can I not add another line or shape? Apparently I cannot. Venture territory. That is a good question, Max. And I've been thinking about it. Like, I should probably make it normal to Vasastan, because this is more traditionally the this is the richer parts of Stockholm are Vasastan, Östermalm, and Norrmalm. And Norrmalm is more of a business district. Östermalm is more of a living district, and you have a bunch of nightclubs here in Vasastan and Östermalm around this area. This is definitely where the people with a lot of money hang. Whereas Kungsholmen is still fairly well off, but is a little bit more upper middle class. Gamla Stan I've been considering what to do with. You have the castle here. It's huge source of revenue for tourists hanging in this area. You also, of course, have the House of Parliament here. But I was kind of considering making this Tremere territory, but I'm not sure right now. Toreador as well would probably be around here, or Esteban. So how about we make it like Ventru, Toreador, up here. Let me see where... I want to see where things are. I need to orientate myself a little bit. Carlaplan. Let me see here. Östermalms Torg, where is that? Östermalmsskolan. I need to navigate by the metro. And here we go. Östermalms Torg. Sturegallerian. Yeah, this would definitely be Toreador. While I'm drawing these territories, this will of course be changed during the process. I am going to take up another question for this stream. So we're going to go into April now. April questions. Edward Reed is asking what makes a good campaign plan? What sort of things do you need to get ready, or something along those lines? So I think it's always very good to start big. I am on a Google Maps of Stockholm right now, and I'm essentially marking out territory for the different clans. Stockholm, we got Nosferatu, Bruja, Toreador here. So I've only done 3 clans so far. I think it's good to start out with big strokes when you're making a campaign. You want to settle a theme. You want to consider what kind of emotions do you want to evoke, what kind of focus do you want it to be. Like, you could literally have an entire chronicle take place on this single island, and that could easily be done. Or you could have it take place in the entire city, or even the entire world. So your first premise is going to be, do I want to make this a small scope campaign or a big scope campaign? I'm making all of Stockholm eventually, because I want it to be a living city. Stockholm is not as big as it might look. It's a pretty small city all in all, but it's certainly giving me something to work with. You also want to keep in mind who your players are going to be. I'm in a little bit of an interesting situation, because my players are going to be people who are my patrons, and that means that I am trying to adapt. Let's do it like this. I am trying to adapt this campaign to make it so that several different players could be actively playing at the same time here and influence each other's actions without it being without it going like how would you say, without it requiring everyone to be present at the same time. So essentially what I want to do is I want to create like a sandbox kind of city where everyone is able to have influence over the city. God, I am rambling. I am sorry about that. I get like that when I'm doing... I can't do more than one thing at a time. But I want to make it a city where players can be able to play several different people at the same time and in different campaigns. And the people joining will be anyone who is a Primogen tier or above on my Patreon. So that is essentially we will be playing. I think let me look that up very quickly. My memberships. I think Primogen tiers get to play at least once a month, if I'm not mistaken. This is Elder. Primogen is every 2 months. At least every 2 months. However, there will be more games for higher tiers. So if we can't fill those games, Primogen, like, I will be working my way down. So if you are, for example, Methuselah tier, and I don't have enough Antediluvians to play all the Antediluvian games I promised, because there's more games for every tier. If you're Methuselah, you will be pushed up to the Antediluvian games, and after all the Methuselahs have been gone through that, the Primogen tier members will be pushed up as well, given the option to be able to play, so that it's essentially, chances are very unlikely you will only be playing once every 2 months if you're a Primogen. That's all I'm saying. Traditional, no, this is just Venture Territory. I'll figure that out more later. They've got a pretty big territory. They've always been a very influential force in the city. However, let's give them the blue for the blue buds. If you compare territory. I would say that Bruja still have. Actually, we can compare that to this 2.95 kilometers. So this is about 4 square kilometers of Bruja territory, and they have about 3 square kilometers, 2.7 square kilometers of territory. So the Ventru have less territory than the Bruja do, but the Bruja used to have even more territory. I would say that the Bruja also had Gamla Stan and the Parliament building as theirs. So right now, Gamla Stan doesn't belong to anyone. Gamla Stan does not belong to anyone. I'm making that decision right now. I am going to draw out the Toreador, the Tzimitzi. No, Tremere territory. I am terribly sorry for that. Tremere is going to be this territory. Interestingly, one of our old kings was super into occult stuff, and he formed, amongst other things, he was a hugely formative member of the Freemasons, which, as we all know, if we're familiar with vampire, is a group that is often affiliated with the Tremere. Not always necessarily, but quite a few times. Let's give them purple because they're magic. So Freemasons are somewhere around here, I think, and he would actually sometimes go out to Kastelholmen and perform rituals here in the night. So that's pretty cool. So traditional Tremere territory, a very small area, but vitally important to them anyway. Yeah, I need some coffee. I am extremely tired. I ran a 2.5 hour game right before we got here, and I slept extremely poorly this last couple of days. Oh wow, Bambi, that's entirely up to you. This campaign will only start once I hit a $500 goal, because then I will be able to, that's super loud, then I will be able to cut down my regular work, because I work full-time as a teacher, but if I can cut down my regular working hours, I will be able to run this campaign. And I think I might actually, we'll see, I might up the amount of games being played. We'll see how that turns out. But they're like, when I say every second month, for example, for Primogen tier, again, that's at the very least, there's most likely going to be more games played. And I'm aiming to have groups consisting of 4 to 5 people. 4 people is ideal. 5 people I can work with as well. We'll see how the how do you call it? How the logistics for that is worked out at a later point. But now we have Nosferatu, we have Bruja, Toreador. We're gonna get some more Toreador territory. We have Tremere, and we have Ventru. So, what are we gonna do with the rest of the Toreador? We are going to put more Toreador up here. We're gonna do like this, like this. Boop, boop, boop. The Toreador and the Ventru have been fairly good allies for most of the city's history, because the Toreador for a long time had a huge rivalry with the Bruja over territory, and they also there was a huge conflict in the 60s over certain areas of the city being essentially destroyed. Like really old beautiful buildings were destroyed to make more room for housing, and that is still a very sore topic in the city, and I can only imagine that the Toreador are still very much upset about that. Let's change that to a more gold color too. Let's go that one. This, hi Nyla. This is just Google Maps, and I'm checking the tab of my my maps basically. So if you go there, yeah, it's just Google Maps. It's pretty easy to work with, and it has a lot of different options. I also posted a link to Styling Wizard, which lets you essentially scale away or peel away details from a map to make it more easily overseeable, overviewable, something. Okay, let's go back to this. So, okay, now we have Toreador, Ventru, Tremere, Bruja, Nosferatu. But where are the Gangrel, you might ask? Now, the Gangrel left the Camarilla pretty long time ago, but that does not mean that they don't have any territory. The music is from Tabletop Audio. I am using it here. Giovanni Mansion Stronghold. Giovanni, that is an interesting question. I do believe there would be a Giovanni presence, actually, and I am going to put that in here somewhere, but they will most likely have a very small territory. I'm thinking might actually be over here. Over here somewhere, perhaps. It's Kungliga Tekniska Högskolan, so KTH, this is one of our universities. Here is another one. I will have to consider where to put the Giovanni. I don't think they'd have much of a territory. Oh, wait a minute. This is like a huge shipping area. Giovanni, oh yeah, for sure. This is where the Giovanni are going to be. The Hecata, sorry, the Hecata now. This is where the Hecata is going to be. They are going to be here because this is a huge dock area. Ferries go here now, mostly ferries for travel, but this is like international trade. That's something the Hecata, the Giovanni at the time, brought to the city. We're going to draw out the I teach grown adults right now. I do high school English for adults education, and I've also taught to middle and grade schoolers as well as junior high. But working with adults is the most fun. Sorry, I realized I haven't had anything to drink in like an hour and 15 minutes. That's why my voice is cracking. Let's draw out the Gangrel. They are going to be here. They're actually going to be here because this is an old deal that the Bruja made with the Gangrel way before there was ever any talk about the Gangrel leaving the Camarilla. So they got this massive and fairly useless territory for themselves. Now a lot of fairly rich people live here because it's a super nice place to live. And I went here running once. It's a really beautiful area. And still Gangrel territory, though, technically. But they don't really police that coast, so to speak, or the villas. Rather, they have this as a massive hunting ground. I am also going to say that there will be a Garou cairn here somewhere, although that will be for much later in the planning, and that was going to be an interesting point of contention with the. Wait a minute, where did the? Is that where it started? Okay, I don't know what just happened. Gangrel? I don't know what just happened here. Okay, yes, massive territory for the Gangrel, and it's almost all forest, by the way, so not a huge loss. Let's edit that. Promised to the Gangrel in the 1800s for their help in establishing Bruja, for their help in voting along Bruja lines multiple times in the 1800s and 1900s. So the Gangrel were a firm ally to the Bruja politically for a long time, and as a reward they were given this fairly huge territory to work with. I say fairly huge, but it's only, it's almost 6 square kilometers. It's huge. Okay, I see, yeah. But it's working now. Should be fine. It's not perfect, but nobody's perfect. We'll go on with the Giovanni as well. Now, or the Hecata, as they are now called, but at the time they were given this domain, they were the Giovanni, and they were essentially they took this territory as it is, as they were primarily focused on international shipping and trade, and they brought a lot of that to Sweden, hence given relatively free control over this area. That being said, the Hecata do not have a seat on the council, which has been a huge source of grievance for their clan for quite some time. And the Ventru have promised them that if they behave and officially align themselves with them, they will be given a seat at the council, which is quite tempting indeed. So let's go with Hecata. There we go. Brought international trade to Stockholm, and were granted large tracts of land, but no seat on Primogen Council. Ventru has promised a seat in exchange for support until 2030. That seems like an interesting twist. And we're gonna give them sickly green because they are corpse-like. It's a huge change in the setting, absolutely. But I think it consolidates really well a whole lot of different bloodlines and kind of brings some semblance of order to a group that was, I mean, there are so many different bloodlines in there. I know, like, some people were theorizing that the Samedi were actually Nosferatu. Like, there were so many theories at the time, and well, now there are no more theories in V5 for that, because it's been proven that they are now. They were Cappadocians. They're now Hecata. Bambi asked a question: what is a touchstone, and can they be used to help with things like errands? Touchstones is something introduced into Vampire via the Chronicles of Darkness system, and they are essentially people that anchor you to humanity. And in V5, your touchstone is a person. Right now, it's supposed to be a person or persons or people who are mortal. They cannot be supernatural, as far as I know, and they have some manner of importance to you as a character. Essentially, damage to your touchstones or threatening your touchstones should be something that should be highly prioritized by your character to deal with, and can lead to loss of humanity if you lose them. They essentially anchor you to what it means to be human. And they are, I mean, system-wise, they are not great for you because they are a vulnerability, but I think they are absolutely vital in any vampire campaign because, oh, I didn't know that, Max, about about them being Cappadocians, that being revealed. But like I was saying, the touchstones are super important to your character because they essentially work as a reminder of why you shouldn't just start killing people, because they're there for dramatic effect. They're not your allies or minions or contacts. I mean, they can be, but they shouldn't be used as a disposable resource or as a resource, because that puts them in danger, which is something that you really don't want to happen. So that's what a touchstone is in Vampire 5th edition. All right, I am going to say that that's Gangrel, that's Hecata, La Sombra. We need to get back to La Sombra. Now, what kind of territory would the La Sombra have? What kind of territory indeed? They would have been given something that's not super great, obviously, because they're not really that trusted. And oh my god, what if I gave them this? Lilla Stora Essingen. It's like Snoozeville. There's nothing here. It's just like big highways, a couple of businesses, and some houses. Like nothing. I'm sorry if anyone from Lilla Essingen or Stora Essingen are watching this. It's like most literally, you'd ask any person in the Stockholm area what they know about these two islands, and they will be like, there's a highway going there, you go by a tram across here, and that's pretty much it. It is an important place though. Wait a minute, where's this? Huh, I've never gone over this bridge. It's interesting. I walked across this bridge so many times. Yeah, it's a small island, and here's this is the big island, and this is a small island. Essingen is their names. So how about we make this La Sombra territory as a big old middle finger to La Sombra, as kind of a, all right, prove to us that you are staying true to your word. This is the territory that they were given. There has at times been La Sombra living in Stockholm. There have been conflicts with the Sabbats. So the La Sombra are not new to Stockholm in any regard. But when the Amici Noctis said, we want to join the Camarilla, the Ventru went like, all right, that's cool. You're more than welcome to join, but there is a trial period. Oh, these islands? Yeah, it incidentally, it is probably a pretty good place to have your territory at, because yeah, it's literally a place no one goes except to live, and there are some offices. it's there. I don't know if there are any nightclubs there. I really don't think there are. So for hunting, it's not ideal, given as trial territory by the Ventru promised parts of Södermalm once the Bruja have been dealt with. So the Ventru has promised behind locked doors the La Sombra that they will be given large parts of this territory once the Bruja are no longer an issue, or they've been pushed out into the suburbs, which I think is what the Ventru really wants. The Ventru know that all the money, all the power and influence is in the center of the city. This is where all the money is being made. People live out here. There's lots of communities out here, but this is where it's all going down. Like you have Kista, I guess. This is up here. Where's Kista? Here we go. Like, there's some businesses here as well. Oh, Malkavians, you're absolutely right. I am so sorry. I completely missed Malkavians. How about Gamla Stan? Yes. Yes. Malkavian territory. Gamla Stan. Thank you so much for telling me. The Malkavians are in Gamla Stan. And the reason for that is that Gamla Stan... Actually, let's go to Street View. Can we do that here? Can we go to Street View? I guess we can't, but we can open up a new tab to go Gamla Stan. I don't know if they have Street View in Gamla Stan. Man. Let's go to... No, not satellite. Can we go down here? Boop. Okay, so I don't think we can go into most of Gamla Stan because cars are not allowed in Gamla Stan. But this is the oldest part of Stockholm. Half this island is built on garbage. I am not even joking. Like right now we are on garbage. Old garbage that was pushed out into the water because it's a very small island, and eventually kind of solidified, and people built on it. So some parts of this is actually sinking into the water slowly. Now there's a couple of really interesting buildings in Gamla Stan. I'm really miffed we can't go into the side streets, but we can probably see some photos from there anyway. But over here, we have one of our oldest churches, and I think we can get in here. Yes. This is Riddarholmskyrkan. It's absolutely mega beautiful inside. This is an amazingly beautiful building. And you also have, I think this is the old Supreme Court, or Högsta domstolen, I'm not sure. So you can see these are pretty old buildings. We will go across here. This is the old House of Knights. This is essentially where the nobility all have their coat of arms hanging, and where they can spend their, every person who is a nobleman, or essentially is a knight or above, is allowed to hang here. Essentially, it's a pretty weird place, but we have it, so that's the thing. So as you can see, these are some pretty old buildings. Cars are not allowed to go into the side streets. They're doing a lot of renovation here. That's why there's... What? You can't go through here? What about here? And over here... Alright. This is City Hall, by the way. Now we're entering Venture Territory. This is City Hall, which is called 3 kronor, 3 crowns. We can go look at it later. This is the Parliament. It's right over here. I am a little bit miffed we can't get closer to it, but I can show you guys photos if you're interested. Here's the Knight's house with a little garden, and here's another court. I think might be the royal court, I'm not sure. There's a tiny little island. Yeah, Parliament, House of Parliament. So, let's actually take a Gamla stan, Västerlångsgatan. Gamla stan is very famous for being extremely attractive to tourists. There's so many tourists here. As you can see, this is how the streets look. Lots of tiny stores, lots of people, and like antiques, and like there's pretty much everything you want to get is available here. And there are also very famous ghost tours being done in Gamla stan, because there's a lot of old stories about these buildings. Like, this used to be a brothel, and people who couldn't pay were pushed out into this alleyway, so they broke their neck, and that's why this alley is called Broke Neck Alley, and stuff like that. Oh, Ben and Jerry's. So this is very unusual, seeing this few people. But yeah, Gamla stan is beautiful at night, by the way, although there are tons of rats. I definitely think this is Malkavian territory. Thank you for bringing up the Malkavians. The only thing is that the castle is here as well, the royal castle. But you know what? I kind of like that it's in their territory. They are the heart of the city. So let's make that into Malkavian territory. If it doesn't work, we'll change that later. But it is this entire... This is actually a different island. They're not connected by land, but we'll make it the same territory. Boop, 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 and boop, 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 boop. I'm sure I will probably change some of these things at one point or another. Right now, this is Malkavian territory. Originally belonging to the Bruja, left, became a neutral territory after the Ventru and Bruja could not agree on whose domain it was. No, actually, yeah. Later claimed by the Malkavians, who do a surprising, no, not surprising, by the Malkavians, who have historically been neutral in any Bruja Ventru conflict, hence why they retain it. So here we go. Here we have a little piece of history just put in right here like that. Boom. and it is Malkavian territory. And I believe someone mentioned, I think it was, yes, Max, this would be a perfect place for Elysium. So I think that the castle is going to be Elysium. And you might be wondering, why would the castle be Elysium? Isn't that where the king lives? No, he doesn't actually live there. He's there sometimes. And in fact, there are plenty of bedrooms in the castle. Plenty of them. But the king doesn't like to live in here. He likes living all the way over here in Drottningholm. This is where he spends most of his days. And this park is really beautiful. As you can see, it's actually very beautifully made. It's done in a French style. It's very much like 1700s, 1600s French Rococo. No, I don't know the name of the style. So this is where the king and his family lives most of the time. Which means that the castle is more often than not left unoccupied in the evenings. A perfect place to host Elysium. So Elysium is in the castle. And of course there's going to be other Elysium in the city, but this is permanent, a permanent Elysium. And thank you very much, Max, for that brilliant idea. Okay, looks like we've divided up a lot of Stockholm right now. Okay, I mean, I used all black for Nosferatu, but that won't work since... How about we use white for Nosferatu? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it really looks like the Versailles, doesn't it? I can show you a photo of it. Drottningholm's slot. It's because our king at the time was in love with France. He loved everything about it. So when they made this castle, yeah, you can see the French influence right in it. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's wow. Yeah, if I had a castle I could live in, I would live in this one. It's so beautiful. It's not super nice to go there in spring or autumn because it's usually very muddy. But midsummer, it is amazing, and in the winter, it's really pretty too. Okay. Now, we have a bunch of territories that haven't been claimed, which is still very, densely populated. Oh, yeah, for sure. This castle sees a lot of tourist revenue, so there's always people here during the day. And there are also guards standing outside the castle 24/7, armed guards, who are allowed to kill you if you walk within their perimeter, but they won't do that because that would be a diplomatic nightmare. So, what are we missing? Are we missing anything? I think this territory... there's really not a lot going on here. Clarion Collection, Hotel Tapio, Music University. Yes, can you change these at some point? Can you alter these? I guess you can't. Well, I might redo these at a later point, but this is roughly the outline of this. Visiting the castle, if it's expensive? Is that the question? This is still not very clear, though. Is there anything else we can edit in it to make it more obvious? Okay, let's make it darker. Yeah, how about this? This is more visible. Yeah, Venture Territory is here. How about, there should be a rack territory free for anyone to hunt in, and I think that's actually going to be all of this. The castle is not very expensive to visit. I think you pay 15 euros for an entrance ticket to go look around in the castle, and a large portion of it is open, but far from everything. You can also visit the treasury and the museum in the basement, where they have pictures of the old castle, stuff like that. It's actually very nice. The rack, yeah, how about we make this the rack? But that's an extremely huge territory. Still, I mean, there's not a lot of stuff going on here. I mean, here, I guess. Oh, actually, hold on. Hold on. Yeah, there's... No, there's this area is really not that much going on. Okay, so we're gonna make this the rack, and it's gonna be a pretty big area because it's unclaimed. Oh no, Eduardo, you don't have to apologize. No worries at all. No worries at all. Otherwise, we will just rework this map at a later point. I think I've been fiddling around with this map a little bit too long. I want to get into the meat of creation here. So, I kind of feel a little bit bad for the Tremere because they have such a little territory, but you know what? Nobody likes the warlocks anyway, so this is going to be the rack, so to speak. Doot and doot and doot and doot. Wait, hold on. Where did it start? Start over there, right? Yeah. Invalid or self-intersecting polygon. Okay, I gotta remake that one. Yeah, I really wanted to have a little like rundown of how the city is built up, because in a sense I am very worried that I am making a campaign setting in a city that not a lot of people are going to be familiar with, and I am absolutely seeing the downside of that. Like, in no way am I expecting my future players to memorize all this. That's why I also want to make it a very expansive database of lore that any player can access at any point, so they don't have to feel like just because they don't know the city, they are at a disadvantage. Rather, I would prefer if it was simply, God, I am just garden pathing myself into these complicated sentences that don't make any sense. I just want it to be easy for my players to access this kind of information quickly, so they don't have to feel like they don't know the city they're playing in. The rack, I think we could dye a light blue. No, that's Malkavian. Light brown? Let's make it brown. Brown. Boop. Oh, thank you, Bambi. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Really didn't have to do that, but thank you so much. That is very, very kind of you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh gosh, wow. Yeah, I am so looking forward to running a game in the city, or running multiple games, because I think there's a huge potential. And yes, when I say rack, I'm more or less saying this is unclaimed territory. I'm gonna make, man, I should have done that as a rack too. I'm gonna make a second rack over here. Essentially, it is territory that has not been claimed, but is still visited by vampires, of course. It's just that it's either not very, it doesn't have a lot of places to hunt naturally, or it's simply, what am I trying to say? Or it's just not that densely populated. It really depends. Okay, I think that was a little bit too dark. Did I use this one? I think I did, yeah. Oop, okay, so the rack. Oh boy, that was a lot of work done in the first stream. I still have 15 minutes to go. So I feel like I should write up a new list. Campaign points, stuff that I've talked about today. But yeah, I think you have a good point there. I believe they're empty for a diplomatic reason as well, because they're also very much a buffer against this area, against this area. There might even be a rack down here as well, especially in this area, because there are werewolves, and werewolves are horrible creatures lupines are terrible, horrible creatures. They will kill all vampires, and therefore it's good to have a kind of a buffered area where it's your own. If you go there, it's completely up to you. But if you do go, you do run the risk of being mauled by werewolves. This is a kind of a garbage reason for it right now, but I will once again rework this map at a later point to make it more comprehensive. Yeah, I like the Bruja have been split in their territory by the Toreador, who essentially muscled their way in here with the help of the Ventru. The Ventru Toreador, let's go that right way. Campaign points. City run mainly by Bruja from mid 1800s to end of 1990s to mid 1990s. After that, that's a 1. It shouldn't have been a 1. It should have been a point like this. Ventru have been the primary rival to the Bruja, but were unable to wrest council power from them until the Toreador openly declared themselves as permanent allies of the Ventru. As the Bruja had a long history of antagonizing several of the clans of the city, this resulted in both the Tremere also officially declaring for the Ventru. The Gangrel and Nosferatu remain loyal to the Bruja, and the Malkavians. Oh, I forgot the Banu Hakim. That is super duper important. I should have done that. Okay, so the Banu Hakim, while traditionally have been portrayed as Middle Eastern, of course, is a very varied clan. They have a lot of different members. So I'm not entirely sure where I would be putting them, because I also don't want to play into racial stereotyping and things like that. And I think it would make sense if they were... So it would make sense if they were given territory that wasn't super close to the city. Oh man, like no matter which way I cut this, it's gonna like. Okay, let's be frank. This part of Stockholm is both this part of Stockholm that I'm circling right now and this part of Stockholm are both fairly segregated areas. I don't want to get too much into politics, but we live down this line. It's a beautiful, amazing place. I love it. I have never ever felt like I don't belong. It's really nice. We've been living here for close to 4 years now. But the matter of fact is that as the city is expanding, it's constantly pushing out. It's what is the term? It's it is not. It's not urban development. It is called when it becomes like a middle class area. It becomes there's a term for that. I keep forgetting it. Gentrification. So essentially, in both directions, Ministry, of course. God, it's late. Obviously, I should be putting this out. Ministry, I don't think have any. Oh, what if this is Ministry territory? Gentrification, exactly. So because of gentrification, people with low income are being pushed further and further out on the metro lines. Sprawl, I guess, but they're still very living areas. The thing is, Stockholm industry has always been fairly centralized, so we don't really have much of a sprawl, but gentrification is the term, yeah. So in both directions, like the further away from the core of Stockholm you live, usually the less expensive it is. In a way, you also have the same down the green lines going here on the metro lines. I should probably mention the lines as well. Red line goes down here. It's what we live on. It also goes up here to the university and or here. Sorry, not up here, to here. University, down the road, stuff like that. And then you have the blue line, which mostly goes up here to Kista. No, not, yeah, Kista to Rinkeby, Tensta. And then you have the green lines that go this way to Bromma, down this way, and then kind of splits into 3 different paths. It's really beautiful seeing the city like this because you can kind of see where the metros are going. And the green lines, of course, the further out in the green lines you go, it's not super great either. But the red lines traditionally and the blue lines have been where people with lower income have been living. So traditionally that has been in Stockholm, Sweden, immigrants, because usually immigrants have to take fairly low paying jobs. They lack the contacts network and stuff like that to get better jobs, because unfortunately Stockholm is really garbage when you're looking for a job. It's very hard to get a job if you don't have the proper contacts, or even if you have the skills for it. So all that being said, like, the first thing, the easy thing would be to essentially put the Banu Hakim here, which is what they're hinting at in the book. I don't like that though, because I think the Banu Hakim, they are much more varied now than they were in the past. So while I can agree that, if you want to, no, I don't really know. Like Ministry, I want to, maybe Ministry here. Banu Hakim, man, this is tough. I'm sorry, this is difficult because this is kind of. Oh wait, is the city library in here? Where is it? Oh, it's here. Okay, it's right on the edge. Why don't we do this? How about we clear these? They're not going to be racks anymore. How about we Banu Hakim here? Because this is not exactly the best part of Stockholm, but it's not super bad, or it's not actually even bad. It's pretty neutral, I'd say. Oh, this is complicated. I'm gonna have to think about this a bit more. Ministry is not gonna get much territory at all. They're gonna have to probably be in the rack, because the Ministry is not aligned with the Camarilla, and they're officially now aligned with the Anarchs, which is not a good look in the eyes of the Ventru and the Toreador. So I'm going to say that the Ministry has a very small domain, possibly here, which is their territory. And the Banu Hakim might be... But hold on. They could be here. They could be University, the Banu Hakim. I don't see any problem with that. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all, because they're more scholarly. The Viziers, I believe it was, that joined the Camarilla. So how about we do this? We're going to be very like, this is your territory to the Ministry. We're going to get a super small territory here. Ministry. Again, might change this later. It really, I just want to convey the idea that they're getting a small territory rather than like give them specifically this one. It might be this one, it might be another one. We'll work that out. Yeah, they are smart Assamites, exactly. So, no, orange, red, pink. I guess pink could work. Purple, pink, red. Well, yeah, we see the difference. And we're gonna put the Banu Hakim up at the university, because I like that, dude. And I think the Ventru gave them this territory because they were like, hey, so if we give you guys this, you're gonna be, or maybe the Bruja gave it to them. That's not a bad idea. I have to think further on this. Like, I want to figure out who are the La Sombra loyal to, who are the Banu Hakim loyal to. Are they neutral? These are all questions that immediately popped up, but let's call this Banu Hakim. This way, what? This way we are kind of avoiding the suburbs, which makes sense because there's not an awful lot of vampires living in Stockholm. So having them spread out into faraway regions, I think that would be more of a thin blood anarch territory rather than a specific clan. Let's put the Banu Hakim here. Okay. Thank you very much for reminding me. There we go. Now we have Banu Hakim, Ministry, Toreador, Giovanni Hikata, Gangrel, Ventru, Tremere, Octavians, Bruja, another Toreador, Nosferatu, La Sombra. Perfect. I like this. I like this a lot. This territory is suspiciously blank. This might be La Sombra territory as well. We'll consider that later. But we're going to write down the points now that we learn. So, as the Bruja had a long history of antagonizing several of the clans of the city, this resulted in the Tremere also officially declaring for the Ventru, the Gangrel and Nosferatu remaining loyal to the Bruja, and the Malkavians remaining independent, independently remaining neutral to either parties, voting, individual to either parties. As the Banu Hakim officially applied to join the Camarilla. When did this happen? When was the official date? Like, I know they left in early 2000 when Urshulgi left, correct? The Ventru were in charge. The Ventru assigned, gave them part of the Ventru gave them the two major university areas, KTH and Stockholm University, SU, as territory, areas that had previously belonged to no one due to lupine presence. This, however, angered the Tremere, who had long vied for this territory, because they have nothing, and they were like, we can take it, we can handle it. The Ventru were like, no, there's werewolves there, you can't do it. And when the Banu Hakim joined, they were given this territory, which has kind of shaken the Tremere trust in the Ventru. Okay, sorry to see you go, Eric. Thanks for stopping by. Oh yeah, for sure. That is a good idea, that this La Sombra could have had a lot more territory before, even going into the suburbs over here, but they were limited to these isles only until they proved their worth. Bambi, sorry, I will tell you again about the background music. It is from tabletopaudio.com. It's one word, tabletopaudio.com. And it is all free. I don't play them when I'm running games on the Onyx Path because I don't think it extends to companies using the music, but it is one guy, I believe, who's making a lot of really good background music. All of them are like 10-minute long pieces, and I've been using that for the background music. Really good site, can highly recommend it for your own campaigns, and you can mix and match. He also has an extensive collection of sound effects and like ambience, so you can have like people talking in the background or hooves walking down the street, clopping down the street, stuff like that. The sound pad feature is great. Like, you can make your own custom sound pads. Really, really good. He has one for Vampire. Oh, oops. I guess I turned off the music while I did that. Very, very good website. Highly recommended. Eduardo, at this point, we have not decided on a day when we will be running this game, because it will run once I hit $500 a month on my Patreon, which is a lot, I know, but that would allow me to cut a day a week out of my usual work as a teacher. Once that is done, we will discuss which day of the week will be done. I also have to take into consideration that I'm Swedish and a lot of my patrons are American, and it would be unfair for me to schedule a game at a time where they would not be able to join. So I got to take that into account, and I also got to take into account, like, how would it impact my own work? If I put it in the middle of the week, I would probably be very exhausted if I did it. Thank you so much, Bambi. You're great. You're an amazing person. Thank you so much. Yes, sorry. Here are all the sound effects: automatic fire, hiss, bite, all those things. Let's go back to the music. But like I was saying, all these things. Oh, whoops! I guess the playlist kind of disappeared. Well, let's go with horror. Let's put Crossing the Sticks. Most likely it will be a... Oof, most likely these games will be a weekday. I am currently thinking it will be Fridays or potentially Sundays. Late Sundays, which means I could do this Monday my time, early in the morning. I could run them early in the morning. Either way, I can just say right away they will not be streamed unless my players specifically want it to be streamed, because this is like a reward for people who help support me. You really don't have to apologize, Eduardo. These are really good questions you're asking. I'm very thankful that you're asking them, because this is all really new to me too. Like, I've only been at my channel for 8 months, and this is the first time I'm sitting down to do all this stuff. So thank you so much for your support and your questions. They're really good. So don't have to apologize at all. I'm sorry. I really hope I don't sound angry, because I'm not angry. I'm super duper excited about all this. But yeah, probably late Sunday for Americans, so early Monday for me, or potentially Fridays. Again, I would probably discuss this with the players. It would certainly be a regular time, a month or every 2 weeks or whenever it's supposed to be played, so I can base my work schedule around that. Yeah, we're not there yet, so I'm not gonna start making plans when we're not, but this is enough plan making for now. Okay, so the clans we haven't covered right now into this are the Ravnos, who are basically just a bloodline right now. We haven't included the Tzimitzi because, again, I am a little bit concerned about what kind of change they're going to undergo. There could certainly be autarkist Tzimitzi around. I'm not going to say that's an impossibility. I know that was brought up before, but if there are, they will not have their own territory, because they would be sorry, Bambi, I can explain about tabletop audio. Like, when you get to this website, it's probably not very easy to orientate yourself around it, because it's a very visual website. It has a bunch of different things you can play. Oh, I don't know how to describe this. Essentially, let me go to tabletop audio. When you start, you get everything from Biodome, Heart High Rise, Heart Absolution, Heart Meat Corridor. Like, it gives you a whole bunch of different audio things to pick from, and when you hover over them, you can save, add, or play. So it is something that's difficult to interact with text-based only, unfortunately. I really don't know how to make it work, but it is not a very easy website to navigate. unless like without visually finding things. I'm sorry about that. Although it wouldn't be a bad thing to maybe send a question to the guy who owns the website and be like, hey, so is there a way to make this text-based rather than icon-based? Because I certainly think he wouldn't mind doing that as well. Okay, where was I? Right, yes. We were talking about this way back before. Von Hakim were given this territory. This pissed off the Tremere. We're currently considering working together with the gang, with the Bruja, but they're not really there just yet, because it's the Bruja, you know, which would mean they would work together with the Nosferatu and the Gangrel, and that's really not a group they want to hang with. But it really grinds their gears that the Ventru decided to give all this prime real estate, all this education to the freaking Banu Hakim, who they are big rivals with. I'm going to say that the Tremere in Stockholm are House Tremere. Max Schreck, I believe, is German. So it would make sense that geographically Sweden is very close to Germany, meaning that Max Schreck is possibly influencing the local Tremere as well. This is a fairly small chantry. The major Swedish chantry is located in Uppsala. I don't know if that's official, but it is official in this story, and thus they don't really have as much power to bring to bear as the Uppsala chantry would have. The Toreador are fairly happy with the Ventru right now. They have been essentially been allowed to claim all this land for themselves, and they're making full use of it. The Nosferatu are still Carl Schreck, not Max Schreck. I'm sorry, Carl Schreck. Brilliant. You're absolutely right. Max Schreck is the actor who. Max Schreck. No, that's that's the guy who played Nosferatu. Sorry about that. Nosferatu are still loyal to the Bruja, mostly because they don't like how both the. What the fuck? Oh, okay. That was weird. They don't like how both the Ventru and the Toreador have been trying to muscle in on this area in particular, which belongs to them. And this is unclaimed. This should probably belong to the Nosferatu as well, because it's or Bruja or both. This is all this is like old factories, old industrial areas that have been now converted to pretty decent living areas. And same here, actually. A lot of this, like, you have the Globe here, which is also an old industrial area that's now a sports center and stuff. Like, a lot of sports is being done here. And, here's another huge industrial area. This, obviously, is where the Anarchs are, or the Thin Bloods. Old railroads, old storehouses, old factories, like postal services have their huge loadouts here. Like, this is very easy to hide in, not a lot of people. Sorry, I'll lower the volume. Sorry. I had to reload everything, so I'll lower it even more. There we go. Hope that's better. This is prime low, like, Caitiff, Thin Blood area. And, I'm already starting to see it kind of shape up. Let's see, what campaign points. La Sombra laid claim, unofficially, to large parts of western Stockholm during their time in the Sabbat. However, as the Amici Noctis officially applied to join the Camarilla, their territory was severely reduced, and they were given a strict limit of 5 members of their clan in the city and its vicinity. A few key La Sombra players took this opportunity to rid themselves of rivals within the clan, and several younger Lasombra left Stockholm in knowing they were unlikely. No, actually, A few key Lasombra players took this opportunity to rid themselves of rivals in the clan, although the two key Lasombra players took this opportunity to rid themselves of rivals in the city, although the remaining 3 are of suspiciously high young age, which has cost no. Okay, so my idea basically here that I'm trying to verbalize is that the Camarilla gave the Lasombra a certain amount of time to essentially clear out of the city those who were no longer going to stay here. After that, the Lasombra would have 5 members accounted for within the Stockholm municipal. I think municipal would be a fair enough split. So 2 of them immediately set to work clearing out any potential rivals they had or sending people running. However, 3 of them are fairly young, or in some other way unaligned with these 2 Lasombra, but survived until the Camarilla basically said, okay, these are the 5 that are allowed to stay. So these 2 Lasombra, who essentially plan to, on their own, embrace new childer, and make like a power base for themselves, are suddenly competing with these other 3 Lasombra who are now fairly well known in the city, so if they die, there would be suspicion about that, and it is forbidden to kill another kindred. The traditions say as much. And they're also not aligned with these 2 Lasombra, meaning that someone was hiding them or sponsoring them from within the Camarilla or someone else to ensure that there would be an internal rivalry within the clan itself, keeping them weak. That is the idea I got right now. Are of suspiciously young age and also unaligned with the 2 elder Lasombra, resulting in an uneasy truce. Resulting in a low-key distrust and rivalry between these 2 factions. So the player's kind of independent. Which player? The people playing the game? Or do you mean the music player? Yeah, the music player is, I'm doing from the website, is from tabletopaudio.com. So when you reset it, it goes back to the volume it used to be. I had some other points I wanted to bring in. We had the Giovanni. Giovanni Hikata were given large territory in northern Stockholm, the harbor, in exchange for promoting international trade. They were, however, never given a seat at the council, although the Ventru have been promising them a seat if they remain loyal until 2030, and so there's some collaboration going on between those. Yeah, if a player joins as a Lasombra, if one of my players want to be a Lasombra or even more, they could be one of these 5. However, I just want to point out that since this campaign is being tailored for the players who are my patrons, I will obviously twist and turn things around so to fit their characters into this game. But I do want to say that we will not be playing high-powered characters. This will be starting out as neonates, 20 years of age at most, or 20 to 30 years of age at most. Could be newly embraced, could be 30 years old as a vampire, because I want there to be a development for the player characters to grow, to find their place in the city, to become power players in their own mind, in their own way. And of course they can have Mala, who are older vampires as well, like mentors basically. But I don't want anyone to be like, I don't want anyone to play a Primogen. I don't want anyone to play the Scourge or a Sheriff, possibly a Hound. That's a possibility. So essentially, if I have 4 people who want to play La Sombra, obviously I will alter the La Sombra in the city. Not too much, but I will probably remove some key characters. So I will increase the amount of La Sombra permitted in the city or something. But I don't want to limit my players' options when they're creating characters. Right now, I'm just creating a pre-established relationship between these factions so as to give a depth to the politics of the city. This campaign will most likely be a political one. Actually, let me correct that. I will, depending on how many players I have, I will group them in what are they interested in playing. If they're interested in playing more of an action-y kind of game, I might have them play Bruja, who are constantly waging a low-key war against other factions in the city to retain or even expand their territory. They could be, or Bruja allies, of course. They could be werewolf hunters. They could be certainly working for the sheriff to keep werewolves out of the city. They could play as, like if they want to play Sabbat, they could be Sabbat forces trying to infiltrate Stockholm and undermine the authority of the Vantru and the Bruja. Like, I don't want to limit what the players can play. I just want to set up all the pieces. Like, it's a domino game. So wherever the players want to delve into, I want to give them the option to explore that, so to speak, if that makes any sense. So none of this should be taken as carved into stone, but rather just a framework for inspiration for the players. I am going to do something with this little island, however, but I am not going to tell you what it is. Oh, what? Okay, can I not? Why can't I? Okay, can I? Ah, there we go, add line and shape. This little island is only accessible via boat. I've been here once, and I'm gonna have something here that I won't tell you guys what it is. It's a secret. Secret to everyone. Secret! And, oh, thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. Again, this is me kind of testing out the way of, I've never made a campaign this way before, but I really want to thoroughly make a city that can stand on its own with or without players. Like, I want it to be elaborate enough, like Los Angeles, for example. Ideally, the goal is to make a Stockholm by Night source book, essentially. That's why I'm trying to fit this into the V5 canon, more or less, with some slight modifications. Like, if you weren't here when I went off on a rant, I am excluding real-life politics from this, because I think it was a bad choice. In my personal opinion, it was a bad choice to include real-life politics with political parties in this setting. I thought that was taking it a bit too far. But yeah, what else do we have in the campaign points? Nosferatu are in charge of large areas of territory that once housed mostly warehouse districts, slaughterhouses, and old factories. With urban renewal, however, many of these parts of the city have been converted into high quality living, into high quality apartment complexes and shopping malls. Because of this, the Ventru and the Toreador have shown interest in claiming these territories. But obviously, the Nosferatu will not part with this sudden, but very welcome additional revenue. So now we have our thing about the Nosferatu as well. And the Gangrel. The Gangrel have found themselves the keepers of a territory, large, mostly what do you call it when there hasn't been anything built on it? Mostly unclaimed forests and wilderness, with a almost permanent lupine problem. While there have been long periods of ceasefire between the werewolves and the kindred of Stockholm, there is a near constant Cold War between the two factions, and the Gangrel are rarely thanked or praised for their role in keeping it under control, keeping it contained. As the Ventru and Toreador seek to... the Ventru and Toreador's puppets build fancy villas and beach houses at the edge of the Gangrel's territory. The clan finds itself more and more reluctant to keep running the ivory towers errands to the lupines. Perfect. So now we have a motivation. Like I want to make it that there is no 100% clear alliance. But that means that I also need to find a reason for the Gangrel to not like the Bruja and vice versa. I want to make like not like as much as not trust completely. I want every single faction in the city to be like, yeah, we're allies. Ironically, I made these yellow and blue, but I want them to be able to. I want it to be a precarious balance of power, because if you're going to have anything Swedish in politics, it would be the fact that there is a rather large emphasis on consensus in politics and on trying to balance many different wills and trying to find a collaborative good solution. And I'd like that to be a thing in the city as well, that every time one faction or another gets too big for their britches, they suffer because of it. The Ventru have been kept under thumb for a really long time, and now they're getting so influential that they're getting sloppy. They've angered their very old and loyal ally, the Tremere, because they gave away territory to the Banu Hakim, who they saw as a new, potentially worthwhile ally. Also, the ministry have been giving a token territory at the edge of the Toreador territory, which the Toreador are not happy with, but they are placated by the large path of land they were allowed to take from the Bruja. There's conflict constantly here, but again, it's very low key because both parties understand that this is a highly populated part of Stockholm. If their conflict goes out of control, there will be a lot of problems. The Masquerade can easily be broken here. The suburbs, no, Little Sombre are contained here. They had much bigger territory before, but now they're kind of almost isolated on their own little quarantine islands until they can essentially prove their worth to the Camarilla. So they are not super happy about the Banu Hakim, and the Banu Hakim are not super happy about them, because in their eyes, the Banu Hakim were just given really valuable territory for, honestly, really no reason, while they were contained to these islands here. The Malkavians are kind of in a very precarious position. Like, they could easily be strong-handed by either of these factions into either like losing their territory or being forced out of the city. They're contained to this very, very small, geographically very isolated, well, not isolated, but like surrounded by others. Yeah, the Malkavians are still non-aligned, and the only reason that they are allowed to keep this territory is because they always vote for what they feel for voting, not for any other reason. And they are also in charge of, they have the castle essentially, which is the permanent asylum. So as Max was saying before, Gamla Stan in itself is almost a huge Elysium. And did I say asylum? I meant Elysium, sorry. The House of Parliament is neutral grounds completely. This is where they meet. I will keep that in basically a chamber underneath the House of Parliament is where everyone meets. So we're gonna keep that. I think that's about it for the territories. The Hekata they were honestly a little bit leaning towards the Bruja at a time, but after the family reunion, the Hekata have essentially decided to side with the Ventru at the moment. They are, however, angry that they are not allowed to expand their territory, which has been very clear. They are not allowed to expand their territory. They cannot be seen as getting any benefits from the Ventru. Yeah, you're right, Max. It's probably the same root to that word. The Hekata are not allowed because they cannot be seen as getting any benefits from the Ventru, who are currently the ones who have the majority in, how to say, the parliament or the council. So the Giovanni or Hekata are kind of lying low for now. And it's a little bit like they're getting tired of waiting, and 2030 is pretty far away. So that's a problem. This territory, I'm not sure why it's not being given to anyone, but we'll probably figure that out in a while. So I think, honestly, from nothing, because I had almost no idea what to do with this, I think we've already gotten a fairly long way in both given a political history between the vampires of Stockholm, but also like many different ways a campaign can go. I think, to answer again what Edward was asking a long time before, if you're making a game like Vampire, if you're making a game that has politics as a focus, or at least as a huge element in your game, it is extremely important that you establish relationship between factions unrelated to the player characters. Nothing exists in a vacuum. If your player characters are joining into this, just like in Bloodlines, they're going to have an impact on all of this. And that is so important to keep in mind when you write a story. Yes, James, let me answer that question for you in a second. Basically, my maps. You go to my maps on Google. So google.com/maps. I'll post a link in the chat. And as you can see, I have Chicago by Night, another map that someone else made, which is where I got the inspiration to do this from. They have all the many different havens listed out, as well as the different territories. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of land that doesn't belong to anyone in Chicago. Is this Gangrel? A barony of Joliet and Naperville, Joshua Tunnels. Yeah, so like it's super duper centered here. No worries, James. Glad I could help. You also have mapstyle.withgoogle.com. I'll post a link to that as well. If you want to create a map that is like removes, like, let me see here, landscape, stroke, fill. How do we do that? Saturation, lightness. Oh, oops. So here you go. Like now, you don't have any kind of landscape. You have water, you have land, and you have roads. Max, this is a really good question. You're asking if I'm going for a sandbox style game or a scripted game. And if any of you have been watching my games on my streams, you will know that I am a big fan of scripted games for streams. This will not be streamed. And it's important because I want this to be more sandbox. I played briefly in B.J. Walter's Valley game, like Valley by Night, or I don't know what he calls it now, but basically it was playing in the valley. And it was really fun. So great storyteller, very good storyteller, good with yes ands. And oh yeah, I agree, James, this is an awesome tool. This will not be scripted. There will be scripted events happening that the players can react to, but primarily I want to have this be sandbox in the sense that I will be, of course, putting out story threads. I will be putting out things for the player characters to do, and it depends on who the player characters are. If players are more comfortable with a more scripted storyline, I will work that into it. But I also want to have it flexible enough that it doesn't have to depend on a single coterie. Let's say, for example, that Bambi and Max are playing in my game. Bambi is used to playing with a coterie that is more of a hands-on approach, just to you know, knock some teeth out, crack some skulls, part of an anarch coterie perhaps. And Max is more used to playing in a highfalutin politics kind of game. Maybe he's an assistant to the Primogen Council of the Ventru, and suddenly Max and Bambi have to play together because either because I want to mix things up, or they want to mix things up, or because one of them is filling a seat on a different tier. So if I had pre-existing storylines existing, that would be very difficult for people to keep up to in case they're gone. And yeah, of course I expect my sandcastles to get kicked. I want this city to be turned upside down. I want people to be able to kill a Primogen. Of course, there's going to be repercussions from that happening, but I want it to be a city that's a sandbox in the sense that nothing of this will be sacred to me. That's why I'm also willing to change quite a bit if the players need it. But I want to create a world that feels like it already exists when the player joins. And I feel like that's the point I was trying to make is planning is everything, but the plan is nothing. Which means that the more time you spend sitting there and thinking about it, the more visceral and alive it's going to be in your head when you're actually playing the game. But if you rely too much on your plan, you're going to be either, like Max is saying, your sandcastles are going to get kicked down, or you're going to be facing many situations. Oh, the PC sandcastles. Yeah, for sure. There will be challenges in here as well, obviously. But you will be finding yourself in many situations where the player characters will be doing things you hadn't planned for. And the more plans you've made, the harder it will be for you to diverge from them, because unless you're some kind of genius who has planned for every single thing to happen, you will run into a situation that you didn't expect. It's much, much better if this city and your setting and your campaign is alive within you. If you know your characters, or your storytell characters at least, so well that you know how the prince would react to this. So if the prince is caught by surprise, i.e. you are caught by surprise, you will react the way the prince ought to react to this situation. He can panic. He can pretend he doesn't panic, because you can pretend you're not panicking, and then like, shit, how am I supposed to deal with this in the back of his head? It is very important that it is a I think Vampire and World of Darkness games, much more than many other role-playing games, are so dependent on the setting, the set pieces. No, not the set pieces. The storyteller characters, the city itself. Vampire is often limited to just one city. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, most of the time you will be venturing into dungeons. You will be traveling across the land. Faerun is huge. I've noticed in the pre-made adventures for Dungeons and Dragons that I played, much less emphasis put on cities. What's in a city? What can you find? There's usually a small bit of text making it some interesting places to visit. But the emphasis is on the player characters, it's on the story, the grand scope, and it's on the combat. Vampire is about political climate that you are an active member of. Whether you like it or not, you are a factor in the constant jihad of the nightly games. God, I am just talking and talking and talking. So this is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because if I do this with people watching and listening, I will be reasoning around all the decisions I'm making it make sense in my head. For example, I might look at where I put the ministry. I might look at the world map and be like, all right, there is nothing here that would interest the ministry. Like world class, like all these stores. Are there any nightclubs? Are there brothels here? Are there going to be brothels? Are there going to be drug dens? Are there, like, I'm going to have to start looking at the map in real life and be like, all right, what would make logical sense here? The advantage I have is that I'm probably the only one who's from Stockholm who will be in this game. I don't know, well, there might be players who's Swedish, so that could be interesting. But I also got to be like, all right, for example, did you know that this street here, let me find it, Brännkögatan, this street was notorious for sex shops, brothels, pornography cinemas, stuff like that, in like all the way into the 80s and 90s. Now they're gone because this place has been cleaned up. But this island was very much low income for very, very long, until like the 80s and 90s, where all of a sudden real estate became so much more of a pressing matter in Stockholm, and people with more money moved here. And I have the advantage of having a city with a real history to work from, but obviously I'm going to take some liberties. Like, there will obviously be way more seedy places in this city. There will be more nightclubs open way longer. There will be pizzerias open 24/7, because there is not a single pizzeria in Stockholm open 24/7. It's a huge problem. There will be more secret societies. There will be more secret tunnels. There's a lot of them in Stockholm. It's going to be World of Darkness City. So obviously it's going to be everything tuned up to 11. And I think that is where we're going to end this stream right now. I am running on fumes. So tired. Thank you everyone for coming by to watch this. If you have any last minute questions, just let me know. I will answer them now. Let's say another 4 minutes, then I'm gonna end the stream. So if you have any more questions before we end this, let me know. Otherwise, this has been a blessing doing this with you guys. You're amazing. You've been keeping me sane while doing this. You've been giving me so many good pointers. Can't believe I forgot about Malkavians. It's been really good. I'm super happy. I hope you guys learned about Stockholm a little bit. Obviously, I will be more and more secretive about some stuff when making this, because I don't want to ruin everything for the players. But I am also the kind of storyteller who believe that the more the players know, the more prepared they can be on what's going to happen, and the better they can react to it in character. Okay, yeah, it's 20 to midnight. You're absolutely right. I'm gonna go to sleep. Thank you everyone for stopping by. I love you. I hope you had a good time. I had an excellent time. I'm gonna save all this stuff, and I will see you again Sunday the 26th. That's when we're doing this next time. If I get even closer to the goal, I might upgrade this to a weekly stream, but for now it's bi-weekly. Take care everyone. Hope you had a good time, and be careful out there. Extra careful. You need, yeah, I'm gonna go sleep. Good night. I love you. Bye.